Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about the nerve plexus, so let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Alright, so when we're talking nerve plexus, let's first set up the idea of what we're talking about. Okay, so a plexus is simply just a collection, a network of all the nerves in that region. And when we say region, we're talking about coming off of each vertebrae and then expanding out to all the areas that vertebrae is responsible for supplying nerves. And you can see there that there are 5 main plexus, and our final screen today in this video is going to be the duotone map. And duotone maps are pretty interesting, if that's the right word, which it probably isn't, because they have a color. It's a color-coded map that shows you exactly which vertebrae is supplying the nerves for that particular area. And you'll see that obviously the cervical plexus supplies to a certain area, and the brachial plexus supplies to a certain area, and the lumbar supplies to a certain area, and the sacral and the coccygeal supply to a certain area. Now, the one that you don't see there is thoracic, and that's because all of these travel to areas other than where they are. If you can imagine that if you're going to only supply nerves to the areas that you're equal to, then that would mean that we wouldn't have any nerves in our legs, for example, because once the vertebrae stopped, nothing below that would have any nerve supply to it. So these 5 travel to other areas. The thoracic is the one area that doesn't travel. It just handles the trunk area, and you'll see that when we look at that duotone map. But you can see the vertebrae numbers for each section. Just be sure you collect all that. I mean, I don't need to read it to you, which is essentially what I'd be doing. But just recognize that there are 5 main plexus, and a plexus is just simply a network of interrelated nerves that are supplying the needed nerves for that particular area. Alright, so we'll start with the cervical plexus. The cervical plexus obviously is in the neck, and you saw on the last screen that it supplies the needed nerves for the arms and things like that. But another special thing that does, it gives rise, or out of the cervical plexus comes the phrenic nerve. And the phrenic nerve is super important because it supplies the nerves for the diaphragm and plays a huge role in your breathing, that lifting up, okay, as the lungs fill, or to press out the air, and as they feel, the lowering to keep that. But this cervical plexus, and we'll look at the duotome, you'll see that. But along with the area of the body that supplies nerves for, the phrenic nerve is the main highlight of that. Okay, the brachial plexus is a pretty interesting one. And again, the diagram here is color-coded, so you can kind of see the purple and the, I don't think that's a burgundy, but close enough, and then the green and the blue. And you can see that it gives rise to the axial, the radial, medial, and ulnar nerves. And these all help supply nerve endings for each of these particular areas. And they're color-coded, as I mentioned. You can see that coming off the C5 is what's going to help supply nerves to the shoulders, and the C6 for the elbow, and then the C7, which is green. So now we're looking at the wrist, and then the C8, and then the first one, the thoracic, helps supply for the blue, which is the hand. And if you look at the color coded on the nerve itself, and then follow that yellow pathway down, then you can see which of those nerves help supply that. And the radial and the ulnar, they're pretty straightforward. The actual, you can see kind of branching off there, and it would help out with the wrist. The one that's the trickiest, the one that maybe doesn't make as much sense, is the median, because it's coming off. It's like two branches that are coming together to form the median nerve, and so that would insinuate that it helps with not only the upper branch that it comes off of, which helps supply for both the shoulder and the elbow, but it comes off the bottom one, which supplies for the blue for the hand. And you may be saying, how can one nerve supply for three areas? And that's those nerve roots that we were talking about in the last video. It would give rise to roots, and you can see some of those branching off of each of them, and the axillary nerve actually would be considered a root, but it gives rise to those, and then they can spread to the various areas. So it is possible that the median, can supply areas to multiple parts because of the roots that can give rise to. Alright, next one we're going to look at is the lumbar plexus, and its main feature, the femoral nerve. And the femoral nerve is pretty important because it supplies nerve endings. And again, these are big areas that we're going to be talking about. And as you can see there, you may not know what all those words are, but quadriceps you should know. But the pectanus and the sartorius you probably do not know. But those are, the pectanus is the hip, and the sartorius is the calf muscles. And it says muscles in the sartorius because there's actually two, your calf muscles, basically two muscles working together. But it's the idea of supplying those. So you're going to have your femoral nerve, which will travel down, and then of course the roots will come off of those to help spread to that area, to get to the calf, to get to the hips, to get to the quads. So and obviously the femoral nerve, you would think entire leg. No, the word that is obviously not there is hamstring, and that's going to be on the next one. The sciatic nerve supplies the nerves for that, but the femoral nerve and the muscles that it works with. Alright, so our last plexus, the sacral and the coccygeal. This is where the sciatic nerve comes out of, and the sciatic nerve, as already mentioned, is the nerve that supplies the nerves to the hamstring as well as the foot. And if you know anything about the sciatic nerve, and it's on the next slide as well, but this can be a trouble spot for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and I can testify to being in that group. The sciatic nerve at times can cause trouble, so let's take a look at what's going on with if a person suffers from a sciatic nerve. And it's actually a combination of things, and the nerve itself isn't the problem. It's the vertebrae, the lower lumbar. It's either bulging or herniated, which is the same thing, and it's just pinching it. And so usually chiropractic work has to be done to help with that. But you can see the painful areas, and of course the sciatic nerve, it also does a good job of showing you how it supplies for those areas. And again, you can see the roots coming off the main pathway, and that's what we really want to talk about and kind of focus on is those roots that are coming up. And you can kind of see those diagrams, get a little pinched nerve, vertebrae not setting that just not setting in just not the right manner, and then can pinch that nerve. and cause that pain. And for me, it's the hip. It's actually the left hip that feels it when it's not going well. And for me, there's pillows that are designed to sit on, and that works for me. But for me, it's the recliner is the guilty component, because if I sit for a while with my knees, they're a higher elevation than the hips, and that's when that can. But what that really means is that is the vertebrae is not in a good supported position and can begin to pinch that. So it really, again, it's not the nerve, it's not the hip, but that's where the evidence is shown. Alright, so our last screen here, this is the Duratone map that I mentioned, and again, it's not very large, but it is certainly well color coded, and you can see the cervical is the teal, the light green at the very top, and so you can see that out of the cervical plexus, the shaded area, color coded areas that it supplies nerves for. So we're talking the upper torso, shoulders, neck, obviously, and then down the outside part of the arm, and then of course once you get below the elbow, all of the arm and hand and wrist. And in the thoracic plexus, you can see the pink there, all the stuff for the torso. So essentially what would be along the vertebrae, or probably 80-90% of the vertebrae. And of course it shows front and back here as well. And then of course the lumbar, the light green, gives rise to supplying nerves to the leg area, and of course then the yellow, the sacral, is the backside for the most part, and of course the feet, as we saw. So when we saw the sciatic nerve, which comes out of the sacral, it supplies the hamstring, which is in the back, obviously, feet, which you can see front and back, and then the calf muscles as well. So that's a Duratone. But again, in your book, in the PowerPoint, so if you'd like a expanded version of that, and again, there is some information there to collect as well, but I just wanted to go over the color-coded aspect of the map. So that's our video over nerve plexus. When we come back together next time, we're going to be talking about reflexes. We'll see you then.